Hi, I'm Mary. So I do the Spanish club at Memorial Elementary School. So with that, I'm with 3rd through 5th graders, and there's about 19 of them. So we meet every Wednesday for about an hour. So we're in the library, and there's 6 tables set up, so there's not that much room to move around and get up out of our seats for different activities. And then the technology in the room doesn't work at all, so everything's done on paper. So on this screen, I'm going to be showing you the different handouts that I would give the students and then explain what the activity would be and then do a little bit of an example. So when the club first starts, the first 5 minutes they get to eat their snack. And then after that, we start to review what we've learned before. So I'll say like, okay, like what did we learn last time? And last time we learned family members. Be like, okay, so like what did we learn before that? And we've been learning about ourselves, so we learned how to say our name, how we feel, how old we are, when our birthday is. Then we did some things with the alphabets, then we learned body parts, and we learned our family members. Like, okay, like, yeah, we learned all that stuff, so now we're going to learn a little bit more about the world around us. So today we're going to be learning more about the calendario, so that's calendar, because if you remember when we went over our birthdays, we learned to say the dates and the months, as well as a little bit with the years. So we're going to be learning about the days of the week today. So then at this point, I would hand out our vocabulary sheet for the day. So I can't do anything back to back, or otherwise they flip forward and don't pay as much attention. So this is the first vocabulary sheet of the day. So this is days of the week. And then when I go over the vocabulary, I'll say the word in Spanish, and they'll repeat after me, and then I'll say the English word that goes along with that. If it's a multiple word phrase or it's a longer word that could be a little difficult, I'll break that up syllable by syllable or word by word. So I'll just do the first section with you guys so you can see how I would say it. I'd say, okay, so just like I said, we're learning about days of the week. So in Spanish, that's días de la semana. So we're going to break this down. So we have días de la semana. So días de la semana. Días de la semana. So our first word in that phrase is días, which means days, and then the little word de means of, la means the, semana means week. So días de la semana. Okay, so we're going to start with our first day of the week, which is lunes. And this means Monday. So then after that, we have martes, which means Tuesday. Then after that, we have miércoles, which is Wednesday. Now, this is a bit of a longer one. So our longest word is in the middle of the week. So it's mi, er, col, les. Miércoles. So that was Wednesday. So then our next day is jueves, which means Thursday. So if you remember, the J in Spanish doesn't make the same sound it makes in English. It makes more of an H sound. Jueves. So the H, it's that H and it's like a little further back in your throat. Jueves. So then after that we have viernes, which means Friday. If you remember, just like we've seen before, the V in Spanish actually makes the sound of the letter B in English, viernes, but it's not a very loud B where it's like viernes. It's more viernes, so it's a soft B. And then we're going to el fin de semana. So we'll break this down. This means weekend in Spanish. So we have el fin de la semana. So we have el fin de la semana. So in Spanish, this means the end of the week, but our English translation of that is weekend. So our first day of the weekend is sábado, which is Saturday. And then after that, we have domingo, which is Sunday. Now this almost looks like the word domino, but we put a G right at the end of it. So domingo. And then if you remember, just like I said at the beginning of this, we are learning more about the calendario today, which is calendar. This is very similar to the word calendar in English, but it's like we have an IO at the end. So it's like calendar, IO, calendario. And then after that, I have the categories of talking about time, which is hoy, ayer, and mañana. And then I have the seasons, which is estaciones, and that's invierno, primavera, verano, and otoño. And with this, I would point out the ñ, which is the letter where it has the N and the squiggly mark, which is called a tilde over it. So we just go over that. We've seen that in some of the other words before, but I would still just point it out, just so they can keep that in mind. So then after that, one of the things I like to do with vocabulary is if it's something that they could have a favorite of, I'd be like, okay, like, if your favorite dia de la semana is lunes, I'd say, favorite day of the week is lunes, stand up. So then they would stand up if that's their favorite day of the week, and I'd be like, okay, sit down. If your favorite dia de la semana es martes, stand up. So that I'd have them stand up for that. Just, they really like to be able to see their favorites and see who else in the room has the same favorites as them. And then I would ask them questions like, what day is hoy? ¿Qué día es hoy? And then they would say, oh, hoy is Wednesday. And I would say, ¿Qué día fue ayer? What day was ayer? And then so they can be like, oh, ayer was Tuesday. And with these phrases in Spanish, they use irregular verbs, so I wouldn't really expect them to know the phrases, but I would just say them with the English translation afterwards, just so they could get used to hearing them. So then I would do the same thing with seasons. I'd say, okay, if your favorite season is invierno, stand up. Be like, okay, sit down. If your favorite season is primavera, stand up. Just so we have some type of movement, and then I probably wouldn't ask them as many questions with the seasons just because we're not doing as much with them, but it's just so they can get the vocabulary down. Okay, so after that, we would sing a song about the days of the week. I always like to do like one type of singing thing during each club meeting just because I think it really helps them with pronunciation and it helps them remember the vocabulary a little bit better. So this song is Days of the Week, and it's to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. So with this, I go line by line, and then with them repeating after me, then I do the first 2 lines, they repeat after me, then we do the second 2 lines, they repeat after me, and then we do it all together. We would probably do it about twice, and then what I would do, some of the 5th graders, especially the boys, aren't as always into singing. So what I do for that is we break it up into like little challenges or little games with it where they still have to sing, so they pay more attention because sometimes people just like to mouth along to it. So I would split the room up in half, so the 3 tables on the right side of the room and 3 tables on the left side of the room, and say, okay, I'm going to see who can sing this song the best. So that means you have to have clear voices, and I should be able to hear each word you say, and then I'd say, whoever I think is the best, they'll get to help me with the next activity. So that just helps motivate them, and the next activity would just be like that side of the room gets a paper first. Okay, so our first line is domingo, which means Sunday, so it's just our word domingo, so it's a little slower. And then we start our next line off with lunes, martes, miércoles, so that's lunes, martes, miércoles, and then after that we have jueves, viernes, sábado y, which is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the letter Y, if you remember it in Spanish, means and then our last line is domingo otra vez. So otra vez in Spanish means once again. So we started the song off with the first line meaning domingo, or Sunday, and then we finished it with Sunday once again, because as you guys know, the weeks repeat themselves. So we'll start singing. So remember, we'll do the first 2 lines, we'll sing that together, and then we'll sing the last 2 lines together. So, domingo, lunes, martes, miércoles, jueves, viernes, sábado y domingo otra vez. And then we would just sing that all together, and like I said, we'd repeat it and then see which side of the room could sing it best. Okay, so then after singing the song, we would move on to the next part of our lesson, which is weather. So say, okay, so now we're going to be learning about the weather in Spanish. In Spanish, instead of saying the word weather, we say tiempo. Now this means weather. So if I want to say, what's the weather like? I'd say, ¿qué tiempo hace? So, ¿qué tiempo hace? So that's what's the weather like. So as you can see, we have one of our question words, ¿qué, at the beginning, and then tiempo, which is weather like we said before, and then hace, like, is what that means here. So, in Spanish, when we talk about weather, there's 3 different categories. So we have hace, está, an I, just like your eye. So we've seen the word está before. When we said way back in the beginning, when we said como está or como estás for how are you. So these aren't super tricky words, but as you can see, we have hace, está, and I, and those are going to be our 3 categories. So under those bolded words, you can see there's different words underneath those. That means those are phrases. So if one of the words is under hace, that means it's an hace phrase. So if I want to say hace frío, that's how that would go together. But one of the words under está is nublando. I can't say nublado under hace. Okay, so then I would do the same thing as before, where we would go over word by word. So I'd say hace fresco, hace frío, like I would use the phrase along with that, just so they could get familiar with hearing those together. And then with these, I would point out the same thing like with the letters, like the J making the H sound, the H being silent in Spanish. Whenever there's a double L, I say like, okay, remember, like when you get like tortilla chips, you don't say tortillas, or if you're just getting a tortilla, you don't say tortilla. Like the double L makes the Y sound. And then under I, we have rayo for lightning. So in Spanish, if we have a capital or if the word starts with an R, or if we have a double R, we roll our R's. So let's go, and then it'd be like, okay, let's all practice rolling our R's when I count down, okay? 3, 2, 1. So then I would just have them all practice rolling their R's. And then with that, I always go like, okay, like if you're having trouble, remember it's the tip of your tongue, and that's touching the roof of your mouth at the very front where it meets the back of your front teeth. So you're tapping your tongue, and then you roll it a little bit more, la 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 la, and then it slowly goes into. So, some of them in the class can pronounce it, others can't. So I would just be like, okay, like remember, we just have to keep practicing for that. So then that would be the vocabulary for this section. Okay, so once again, we would do more singing. I typically wouldn't do 2 songs during one club meeting just because we have some people that aren't a fan of singing. But with this song, as you can see, there are actions next to it. So as we go through singing it, they can do the actions. And then because there's 3 sections, I would have 2 tables do the first section, 2 tables do the second section, and 2 tables do the third section. And I would probably do the same thing where I could see like who could sing it best, or like when they're singing, they stand up to do the motions, just to mix it up a little bit. And then I would have like passed out the song to the group that did the best last time. So the song is called Que Tiempo Hace, or What's the Weather Like? And it goes to the tune of Up on the Housetop, or Up on the Rooftop, which is that one Christmas song. So it sounds like Que tiempo hace, hace frío. So they would be shivering, and they have Que tiempo hace, hace calor, just where they would fan themselves like they're hot. Que tiempo hace, hace viento, which is windy. And then Que tiempo hace, hace sol. And then it's that sunny. So you could circle the arms overhead or like shield their eyes as if they're like hot in the sun. And then I'll just sing like the little next part so you can hear it. So it's like Que tiempo hace, hace buen tiempo. Que tiempo hace, hace mal tiempo. Que tiempo hace, hay relámpago. Que tiempo hace, hay trueno. And then it claps. So that's how that song would sound like. So we would go line by line, and then we'd probably do like one section at a time, another section at a time, and then another section, and then sing it all as a class, probably once or twice before breaking it up into that. And then I would say which group won. Okay, so then the next activity I would do with them is called Loteria. So that's basically a Mexican version of bingo, except how in English, how we have bingo, so we have the 5 squares across. Loteria is just a 4x4 grid, and unlike bingo, you don't have a free space. So it's the same thing where you can win. Typically, they do a coverall where the board has different pictures in each square, and the caller is calling the pictures. But for this, we'll do the same type of rules as bingo. So we can do down, across, and diagonal for winning. So as you can see, the bingo board right now is blank. But what I would do, this would be like a review of everything we've learned so far, so they could write in any of the words we've gone over with vocabulary. So then, as I said before, how Loteria typically has pictures, I'd make sure they all wrote their words in first, and the like 5 or so minutes I'd give them, and say like, okay, like if there's extra time, or not everybody's done yet, but you are, like you can do the illustration, because some of them really like drawing, and then others aren't as into it, so I would just give them the option to do that, but I'd have them write the words first, so everybody could start playing, so we wouldn't be waiting for just a couple of people to finish up. So, in Loteria, when you win, you say libre instead of bingo. So, we would start doing that. So they would just keep calling it out because they would cross the words out as we went. So, when they get bingo or Loteria, I'd have them read the words off. So then this activity lets them practice writing, reading, and then speaking, as well as listening because they're hearing me say the words. So then I'd have them keep going until the majority of everybody got bingo, or if somebody gets coverall. For some reason, if some student would cover the board before everybody else had gotten bingo a couple of times, I would have them come up to the room and be the caller. And then as you can see on the screen, this is what it would look like if, like when a student filled it out. Okay, so this is our last activity of the day. Typically, when I have activities at the end, it tends to be something a little bit longer that usually has some type of art element to it, something that could go longer but also could be a shorter activity if I need it to be, just because sometimes activities take longer than I think they will, or some activities are shorter, so like with singing, if they're not as into that, then I wouldn't make it go as long, or if they're having trouble with the words, it would take more time to go over the vocabulary. So I'll just read the sheet to you and then show you what an example would look like. So this activity is called ¿Qué es el pronóstico para la semana?, which means what is the forecast for this week. So the directions say, as the weatherman or weatherwoman, you need to let the people of Bloomsburg know what the weather will be like over the next 5 days. Include the days of the week, whatever weather you decide for that day, and the high and low temperatures for that day. So you can make the weather as crazy as you want it to be. So it can be like snowing on Monday and then like 200 degrees on Tuesday. So it's very much up to you. So I could let them do whatever they like, because it tends to hold their interest more when they can get creative with it. So as you can see, I just have this kind of modeled after like when you see the weather forecast on the news. So at the top, the skinnier rectangle is where they would write the days of the week. So the directions say over the next 5 days, we meet on Wednesdays, so they could do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or they could just start on Monday and just do those first 5 days. So then in the square below that, they can draw a picture of what the weather is. So like if it's snowing, they can do snowflakes, or if it's hot, they can do like the beach or whatever they think represents the hot weather. And then if they want to, they can write the vocabulary word under that. And then in the 2 boxes after that, they'd write the high of the day and the low of the day. So we didn't necessarily go over temperatures. We've gone up to 31 before when we were doing the days with our birthdays, but it's just there. So then I can ask them questions after. So if everybody finishes around the same time, then like at the front of the room, I'd be like, okay, like who had snow on Tuesday? You could raise their hand and be like, okay, like what was your temperature like? Or what was the weather like on Thursday? And we go through that. So you just ask them questions. I'm like, oh, like based on the temperature on Wednesday, what season was it? So just so we can like discuss what we've done and they can see what other classmates in the room did. And then if some people are taking longer than others, because there are some people that are more into the drawing than other students in the room, then I could go just to the tables and ask them what it is that they have, like for the forecast. I could be like, okay, like you're the weatherman, like tell me what the weather's going to be like for this week. So just so we can continue working with the vocabulary, and this is more of like a fun activity we can do. So every club meeting, as they're finishing up their last activity, I hand out the sheet that goes over all the vocabulary. So if it was sporadic, like when I was saying like, oh, fin de semana, calendario, stuff like that, versus if it was the vocabulary that was formally presented to them, that's all on here. And then along the borders, you'll see stars. So we call this the star sheet. So the star sheets stay in their folders every club meeting. So then if they want to, they can take home all the papers with like the vocabulary and the different activities home. Some of them like to show it to their parents. Others give it to their friends because they weren't able to be in the club. And then some of them have younger siblings that sometimes like chew on their papers or whatever. So this is just so they have an extra copy of the vocabulary, as well as if like the next few club meetings, like if we use something that requires the vocabulary from past meetings, they can easily just pull it out and have it all be there rather than asking me the questions of vocabulary that we've gone over before. And then they would pack up, line up, and then they would leave to go to their parents.